districts in the country based on our performance on standardized assessments. Something that's new to us that I've never seen before is we're also now designated as a best STEM school in the country. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We just reached that designation. Again, that's course offerings and our students' performance on those course offerings. And so, again, improvement, continuous improvement at all times. I have a lot of community members asking me to talk briefly about our school nickname. As you know, we've been required to change our nickname from what it used to be to a new one. As you probably know, we selected the Gray Wolves. And any change is difficult. This is a difficult change for our community, no doubt about it. But what I can tell you with certainty is our primary and elementary school kids love Gray Wolves. They go crazy when the Gray Wolf mascot shows up. And even our secondary students consistently ask for the mascot to show up at things, or even ask, can I be the mascot? I want to dress up and be the mascot. And so we are much further ahead with kind of embracing it than I anticipated we'd be at this point. But we're also being thoughtful about it. We're not flaunting it, we're putting it on things, but we're also putting Canandaigua and established 1791, some other pride points on things so people can see that we have a lot of things to be proud of and to have fun with, and this is one of those. This brand new this year, I talked about our economically disadvantaged numbers, how it's really risen. Because of some changes in indicators at the state and federal level, we now have every one of our students qualify for free breakfast and lunch. I've heard from countless families how appreciative they are of this. In fact, one of our presentations, someone interrupted me at Kiwanis and said, oh, my kid has these meals every single day. It's taken such a burden off of our family, and they're nutritious meals. Thank you so much. And it really has taken a financial burden off of so many families because of this new designation. So we're proud of that. We're proud of the way our food service has revamped the menu options. Kids have a lot of great options in the cafeteria now, and we're happy that they all receive these. And I believe because we're now qualified, we have it for sure for 5 more years. And so that's great news for our community and our families. We're finishing up our capital project around asset preservation, and this really touched every facility we have in our entire district. And so just some quick photos. If you look at the elementary school corridor and the middle school corridor, bright, vibrant, clean, high efficiency lighting, new HVAC systems that are high efficiency. Look at our classrooms in the elementary, primary, middle school. They've all been renovated with storage and cabinetry and hard surfaces that are not porous, so they'll last a lot longer. And even in our elementary, it's a SHPO designated district, so it's protected under the Historical Society. You can see the cabinets match kind of the historical cabinets. We're very purposeful, and we had to be about that process of keeping that historical piece. And if anybody's ever dropped off their child at the academy and what it used to be and how really difficult and congested it was, we've revamped that entire parking lot with a bigger queue and a flow. I've heard from countless families how much they're thankful that we redesigned that, and it's operating much better. The first 2 weeks were kind of shaky because it was a whole new process, don't get me wrong. But after that, it is smooth sailing. And so, a really nice investment. We have some old buildings and old structures, but a nice investment to keep our buildings going for much, much longer, which we're proud of. I want to talk about our commencement last year. Again, I'll go back to that notion that, our schools failing students and that sort of thing. And again, I assert that we're not. If I think back to last year's commencement, and I'm still proud that CMAC allows us to do commencement at their facility. We're the only school they allow to do that, and they're so gracious. Even though Carrie Underwood bumped us this year, I'm trying not to hold that against her. But we're able to hold it there, so that's a great thing. Last year's graduating class, we had kids to go to 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, into the armed services. We had them go right into the workforce. But I want to point out a couple things. We had one student in last year's class that was publicly recognized because he was accepted into the Air Force Academy under a full ride. And if you know anything about that process and how rigorous it is to get a full ride into the Air Force Academy, you have to have stellar grades, you have to have stellar character, and you have to do community service, you have to be physically fit, you have to have character, leadership, all those things. And so we're really proud of that student who achieved that designation. We've had a few over the years, but that was one of our more recent ones. And then I'll also go on to say we had 7, I had to double and triple check it to make sure I'm right, We had 7 students from this graduating class alone go to Ivy League colleges this year, and currently enrolled in Ivy League colleges. I don't know that we've ever had that many in one given year, and I would challenge people to find any school that produced that many kids that attended and are successful in Ivy League schools. And that's not for me saying that, that's some feat that's better than the rest. It's just, that's a hard thing to do for students. And then to be there and to consistently be successful even at that level, that's impressive. And so something that I'm personally really proud of, and I think all of us as a board and as a district should be proud of, that we graduate really dynamite kids, fantastic kids. We're also looking for opportunities to feel a connectedness and a sense of belonging besides in the classroom. And so we're always trying to add activities for students that they really can excel and shine. So we've added a musical at the primary and elementary school. We've not had that before. And so this year they did The Wizard of Oz. If anybody attended that, I can tell you, you would think it was like middle or high school level in terms of the costumes, the sets, the stage presence, the voices, the delivery. It was unbelievable. We had hundreds of kids sign up to be in this musical, and certainly we couldn't take over 200 kids, so we had to do a random draw for all the students, and we got about half of them through it. And it was just such a great experience. So we're always looking for opportunities for kids to get involved beyond the classroom, because we know if they feel a part of something bigger than even the school day, that just kind of that whole school experience is much more positive. And they learn a lot of things during these activities about life and just about themselves that they wouldn't otherwise learn. And so big success. That is becoming now a formal paid club that will be here with us for a very long time. We're really excited about that. I think our next problem is how do we service all the 200 and so kids that want to do it and not have to draw out of a hat. And so that's our next challenge that we'll have to figure out. Our robotics team, I just wanted to mention, last year they made it to the World Championships. They flew to Houston, and someone, a community member, drove our robotics trailer all the way to Houston so they could compete in the World Championships, and they did outstanding. This year they just missed re-qualifying for the Worlds, but to me they were more successful this year, and here's why. They won the FLCC, or I'm sorry, the Finger Lakes robotics competition. And at that competition, they received the Gracious Professional Award. And what that has to do with is people look at the different organizations, and there were teams from all over the world at this competition. They look at teams and they try to determine what teams exemplify the traits of a robotics program best. And so it really is founded in creativity, teamwork, leadership, just that character integrity stuff. And what our robotics team did was, and this was a combined effort in our district, between Brian Nolan, our director of facilities, Mike McLean, Dan Bowman, our advisor. We found a space where we used to hold things to be auctioned every couple of years. And we decided, let's free that space up and do a rolling auction, get it out right away, and then turn that space over to robotics so they could create a full competition-sized field to practice. And they did. They dug in, they remodeled the space, created a full competition field. This is why they got the award. They didn't make this field and just use it to themselves. They invited their competitors. Come practice with us. Let's learn from each other. And some of our biggest competitors came and practiced with them and learned from one another, and they were recognized for that. That was so generous of them. I want to also say we have 2 Lego teams at the middle school that compete similar to robotics. We are even starting a drone racing club at the middle school. And so really just constantly offering more and more for students. We're really proud of. And I need to speed up here a little bit more, so I'm going to. Sectional championships, Sadie won sectionals in bowling. Jeremy competed in a state level, and some of them are rolling in right now as I speak, a state level business leadership program, and won and qualified to fly to LA and compete nationally. We have Mason, sectional wrestling champion. Eva, our spelling bee champion. We sent someone last year to the Scripps in Washington, D.C. She just missed out on it. Down here we have 4 students who performed in the instruments and were judged by state level judges. They all scored perfect on everything that they attempted to perform in. Ben, they're all really motivated, fantastic. Ben wanted to challenge 4 different instruments, voice and 3 instruments. He scored perfect on 3 out of the 4. We've never had anybody do that before. And he was all state on all 4. He had a 92 out of 100 on the one that he wasn't perfect. That's never happened before. Masterminds, first place in our league. It's like Jeopardy for students. At the first place in our league. IB, International Baccalaureate Program, is the most rigorous academic program a student can take, internationally benchmarked. Most schools are closing theirs. Very few have it left. Ours was kind of running on fumes. It's been rejuvenated. We have 12 kids in the program right now, and for next year we have 18. It's probably healthier than it's ever been, which is fantastic. These 2 students, second graders, they did a Continental Math League challenge. So it's every week they get a different math challenge that they have to complete. They're national award winners. Look at their little medals. They never got one wrong. The entire year, got every math challenge they were ever given correct. Pretty impressive stuff. I know Lindsay just stopped in, and Jeremy. So they're leaders on our own student government. They're so good that they've been elected to the state level student government. That's pretty amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And our, yes, definitely. And our student government's been recognized for their excellence as well. So when people say that schools are maybe not doing what they need to do to support kids, I disagree. And I think I explained why I disagree. I think Canada was a place to be quite proud of. We do a lot of great things for kids. Are we perfect? No, we're not. Nobody is. But we do a lot of great things, and I'm thankful. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt now.
All right, thanks, Jamie. So I'll go through the budget presentation. The board, you've all seen this. Some of the community members have seen this. And you know, as you know, we're traveling around the community presenting this you know, over the next week and last week. So we'll start with the revenues. 2 main areas that I'll point out are the property taxes and the state aid. The property taxes increasing from year to year by 1.515 million in the proposed budget. This is a 2.9% increase on the tax levy. Our tax cap this year is 3.19%, so it's slightly below the tax cap, which I'll go into here in the next slide. The other area I want to look at is the second and third line. State aid, excluding building aid on the second line, you'll see a small increase, about $324,000. In that is about $200,000 increase to our foundation aid, which is our base aid. We anticipated, based on the state's formula for fully funding foundation aid, about a $550,000 increase on that foundation aid line. The state changed the formula during the budget process and reduced that. So for Canada, it was about a $200,000 increase. So between $300,000 and $350,000 lower than what we had anticipated receiving. You may have heard about hold harmless from many of our area schools, where some schools are overfunded compared to the formula, and that they were going to have reductions, which has been something that's never been done in New York State, and the state held off of it this year. What the state has said is that they're starting a foundation study for this upcoming year, and they anticipate hold harmless to go away. And so Canandaigua, while we've been underfunded every year in the foundation aid formula until this past year, you know, now that we're fully funded, you won't know from year to year whether you're overfunded or you have an increase. So there could be decreases in the future. The other area to focus on here is state building aid, about a $600,000 increase, it's $594,000. That's due to the capital project, and it's offset by the same, almost identical increase on the expense side and the appropriations for our bonds. So overall, from year to year, increase on the revenues of $2,627,420. This is a look back at the tax levy history since the introduction of the tax cap in 2012-13. The tax cap, the blue line is the calculation for the district from year to year, and the green line is what the district's actually gone out at. Anything above the blue line needs to supermajority, a 60% supermajority to pass the budget. Anything below the blue line is a simple majority. So as you can see over the history of the tax cap, the district has never exceeded it, and this year, as I said before, the calculation is 3.19%, and we're proposing a tax levy increase of 2.9%. So we show the budget in 3 parts: administrative, program, and capital. Obviously, that's many lines, and we've summarized it into you know, a small area. Administration is the first section I'll go over. That's everything related to what you typically think of administration, everything within the district office, administration within buildings. You can see that is increasing $212,751. The second area is program. That's the largest part of our budget and will always be the largest part of our budget. Think of program as anything that students are going to see every day. Teachers, support staff, desk chairs, even transportation. That's all going to be within the program. So that's the largest part of the budget, and it increases the largest typically from year to year. So an increase of $2,105,000. And then capital, and capital is going to be anything related to our debt service, so bonds, any of our borrowings. It's also going to relate to anything with our facilities and maintenance and utilities. And so that is increasing by $532,000. It's actually decreased for that for the facilities budget from their operating side because the bonds are increasing by about $592,000. So the operating budget for facilities is decreasing by about $60,000. But overall, an increase on the expense side, the proposed budget of $91,147,506, an increase of $2,851,000. So we've discussed, on a couple times here, the asset preservation project. This is the final year that we will, the budget will increase due to that project. So as this project was designed and the voter approved, the $60 million project with the use of reserves, as the spending increases from year to year to fund the project, also the state aid increases. So as you can see here, the revenue is increasing by the $594,000 in state building aid, and our bonds, our debt service is increasing by a similar amount. So overall, for the local contribution, will change slightly, a couple $1,000s here from year to year, but overall, it's no local, additional local contribution. So when we started this budget, there were many, many different requests for positions within the district, for all of the different buildings and departments. After a couple months of meetings with each of the buildings and departments and administration, we came down to 2 additions and 3 reductions. So an overall reduction of 1 FTE district-wide. The Director of Elementary Instruction is a new position created by the district, and that is being offset by retirement of our school district data specialist that we are removing that position. So those 2 offset. There's also an addition of a teacher on special assignment for math science implementation for our new curriculums in those buildings. And so that person will be helping implement those programs. And then in the academy, as we start seeing the smaller class sizes in those buildings, we're reducing an English teacher and a business teacher. Those are due to attrition. So there's not anybody losing a job in those positions. Each year within the budget, we're authorized to do a capital outlay project of up to $100,000. This year, the project within the budget is for work on exterior doors and frames within the primary elementary school. This gets us closer to having all of those doors and frames completely replaced within that building to help with the security and safety. When we spend on a capital outlay project, we can spend up to $100,000. The following year, we received 73.2% aid on that project. So if we spend $100,000 next year, the following year, the state will reimburse us $73,200. So the budget status currently, the appropriations in the proposed budget is $91,147,506. The tax levy with a 2.9% increase is $52,580,000. All other revenues, you can see in the third graph, just under $37 million. That's state aid, some miscellaneous federal aid. And then we appropriate reserves and fund balance in the amount of $1,701,000 to balance the budget. So estimated tax bill, this is really difficult for schools at this time of year, because we do not have the actual assessment rolls for next year. So what we do to be on the conservative side is we just take our current tax rate and increase it by the amount that the tax levy is increasing. And what that creates is an artificially high tax rate that we know is artificially high, but in conservative, knowing that that number will come in lower, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. So last year at this time when we presented the budget, we showed a $150,000 home with a $17.49 tax rate per thousand. And after STAR, we estimated that tax bill for the $150,000 home to be $2,078. In the middle column, once we actually set the rates in August for the actual tax collection, the tax rate was actually $1,509, so significantly lower. And that home had a tax bill after STAR of $1,738.50. This year, we're showing an advertised tax rate of $15.53 next year. So tax bill after STAR for the $150,000 home of $1,804.50, an increase from year to year of $66. Obviously, there's the town of Canandaigua and the town of Farmington went through reassessments last year. This year, the town of Hopewell and the city of Canandaigua have gone through reassessments. So looking at those, if we look at different assessed value homes, $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 homes, you can see how we anticipate a tax bill changing using that $15.53 tax rate at this time. So this is something we started going over last year, as going through assessments can be very confusing as to how does it affect my tax bill. So really what this is showing is there's two homes in different municipalities. They're both identical. They're both fair market value of $200,000. Meaning if they sold their home, they would anticipate receiving $200,000 on that home. One community has been fully reassessed. That's the one on this right here. And so they're assessed at $200,000. And the other community has not been reassessed, and their assessed value on that home is $172,000. What the state does is they create equalizations rate, and the state says for a community that's has a full valuation, you're at 100%. For a community that's not been fully valued, they'll come up with a percentage. In this example, 86%. This is similar to, for this past year, on the right would have been the town of Canandaigua, on the left would have been similar to the city of Canandaigua. So that's how this state helps the two communities end up with a similar house being taxed fairly at the same value. What that does is when we do the calculation, the town that fully assessed has that full tax rate of $1,509. The town that is under-assessed, has not been revalued, has a higher tax rate, and ultimately they have the same tax bill from year to year. So as a community goes through a reassessment, their assessments will increase, but their equalization will also increase, which offsets the tax rate and decreases it. So having an increase in your tax, in your assessed value does not necessarily mean an increase in your tax rate, but it may, depending on where you fall within that reassessment, those revaluations. So as I said earlier, we do a conservative tax rate at this point, and then our adopted tax rate is typically lower. So 2 years ago when we presented this time, we estimated the tax rate to be $18.75. The adopted tax rate was $17.08. Last year, as I went over earlier, $17.49 we estimated at this time. The full value tax rate was $15.09. And this year we're estimating $15.53 in all of our publications. Based on the tentative assessments that I received at the end of last week from the county, I'm estimating that tax rate right now to be $14.25. So significantly lower than the current tax rate. Does not necessarily mean, again, somebody's tax bill may go up. Tax bills will go up, but an individual houses may go up or stay flat or go down. Proposition 2, transportation. We purchase buses each year. This year, there's 9 buses outlined there. Purchase price of $1,524,755. These are all diesel buses. As you may be aware, the state is requiring all districts to transition, start purchasing only electric buses in 2027. We are not at that point yet, and then we have to have all buses purchased by 2035 to be electric. We're not at that point yet. We're still purchasing diesel buses, and so that's where the 9 buses in that rate, the total amount, $1,524,000 comes from. We use our transportation reserve and fund balance to cover that, so it does not affect the tax levy. Proposition 3, we collect the tax levy for Wood Library, and then we pass that along. So Wood Library is proposing, their current budget is currently $920,150. They're requesting an $87,414 increase to just over $1 million for their tax levy. They will raise an additional $347,000 to balance their budget. If it's approved, the tax rate will be 30 cents per thousand of assessed value, and an increase of $4.50 on a $150,000 home. The tax levy would fund 74% of their budget. There are 2 Board of Education seats. There's 2 5-year terms. We have 5 individuals running. They're all listed there, I believe, in the order that they will be on the ballot. And then the budget is next Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., depending on where you live within the district, either at the primary elementary school or at Cheshire Fire Hall. That's what I have.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So, you had a whole minute to spare. Oh, geez, that minute's gone. Sorry. Nice job. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. We can entertain maybe a question, and then because we're crunched for time, we'll stick around after the board meeting in case there's further questions. Certainly we'd like to engage if people have questions about the budget. Or there's none. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you equate the decline in enrollment to the actual budget? What impact does that have on the budget?
It's a great question. So it's a factor in the aid that we receive from the state. They look at your enrollment levels. It's one of the factors. For us, our enrollment's declining, but other factors are things like economically disadvantaged and ELL students, so students who don't speak English as a primary language. Because our numbers have increased so much with those, it's kind of offset our decline in enrollment. So at this point, it hasn't really hurt or helped us in terms of the enrollment decline. It hasn't overall hurt us because we're becoming a higher poverty district and we have more ELL students. And you get, that's a factor also in the formula. If you're asking the question about if the numbers, if our decline in enrollment's happening, why are the costs increasing? That might also be your question. There are a lot of drivers. So if I was looking at a spreadsheet we're working on today. If we just look at minimum wage 10 years ago at $5, now it's $15, or fuel prices, or electric bills, special ed costs and special ed needs, those numbers have risen drastically. And so that's really what's driving a lot of the budget. So I answered your question in multiple ways. All right, got it. All right. Yes. All right. So that was 2 questions. I was only going to answer one. We will stick around and answer more questions. So I apologize. That took a little bit longer than we anticipated. So we'll plan for like 45 minutes next year. So we have plenty of time. And I'll check if there's anyone in the hall.
Yeah, the student who's going to say
the pledge.
Yeah, and so we may just be a couple minutes late because I'd like to greet the student who's going to do the pledge and get them comfortable.
Okay. All right. Thank
If
you.
anyone is staying for the meeting and didn't get a chance to sign in,